Well, hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the second edition of Thatcher's Law of Perspective. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first episode. Today I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into the interesting fields of perspective. It seems with all these people debating en masse on Facebook, the biggest challenge nearly everybody has, including flat earthers, is the challenge of perspective. Like, we ask things like, how does the sun set over a flat earth? Now, if you watch the first episode of Thatcher's Law of Perspective, I ran out of time after just 6 and a bit minutes. I was explaining that this symbol here, when you put your hands together, hold them like so. Hopefully you can even see it backwards. That is what you're looking at, and this is how you may view perspective. Now, if you hold this in front of the Freemasonic symbol of the square, the set square, and the compass. Now, compass, what an interesting word that is. We use a compass to make circles. We use a compass to point towards north. Why the same word for two things? Because whichever direction you go, keeping north there, you're making a circle. That's pretty basic why it's called a compass, and it's the Freemasonic symbol. And if in fact you hold this up as such, making the diamond in front of you, in front of the Freemasonic symbol, you will see this actually matches perfectly with the set square at the bottom, and this matches the compass. What an amazing coincidence. Did the Freemasons know something that we're only just discovering? Well, this is what I tell you. This is your view of perspective. When you look at your thumb and little fingers here, they make a flat plane in front of you, and yet, as you look at them, that actually looks more like the little fingers are way up here somewhere, at least halfway up. That is the nature of the flat horizon in front of you rising up to meet you. It is also the cutoff point. It always comes to eye level because perspective is your eye level. That is the cutoff point because that's where you're seeing from. And it's just human nature as we look out for things at foot level below us to rise up to eye level. Things above it will sink down. And the angle of the sun is represented by your fingers here. It is going in a parallel straight line above and around us. I wish I had a prop for this. I wish I had a ball on a string to show, because that is exactly what I need for this. I couldn't find a ball, and I never got a chance to poke a hole in it and tie a knot inside on the string to hold it in place, because you can't get inside balls anyway. So anyway, as I'm saying, the sun goes in a flat circle around above us. It gets back here at the apex above us at 12 midday every day. This would not happen if we were on a ball going around the sun, because every time the ball got back to facing the sun, the time would be out by a degree, which equals 4 minutes per day. People will tell you, but the sidereal day takes care of that. Well, I don't really give a flying at a rolling donut about this sidereal day nonsense. The clock measures precisely 24 hours every single day, and that is why the Earth will always be facing the same exact place at the 24-hour point. Whether you call it 23 hours 56 minutes for the sidereal day or 24 hours, which we actually measure, makes no difference. It's still a fixed exact amount every single day. So obviously the sun is going around us so that it comes back overhead at midday every day. This is how we see it. We are down here, very, very low, very tiny compared to the size of the Earth realm we're talking about. Now, just because we say the Earth is flat doesn't mean we suddenly think it's really, really tiny. Maybe it's inside a massive dome. That's something we still haven't really come to a conclusion on, but regardless of what's holding everything above us, if it's holding at all, or if it's just lights in the sky, what we're seeing from our perspective down here is narrowed to this field of view. and you will see a light coming, reach the highest point in the sky, and it will appear to go down as it gets further away without shrinkage in size, because remember, you are tiny. You are down here. You are looking up at it from a very narrow field of view. Your horizon at sea level, for example, if you're 6 foot above the ground, is only 3 miles around. A ratio of about, what is it, 16, 3. It's about a ratio of 1 to 3,000, roughly. Your height compared to the distance you can see, which is why it rises up to eye level, because it's not really rising up very much at all. This tiny little fraction as a ratio compared to what is really high above, going far away, appears to sink down and blocked off by this 3 mile limitation that you were looking around at. So this is a little experiment. I hope all you boys and girls can try at home, try in the classroom, do it with a friend. It's pretty harmless. It requires one of you to lay on your back, but you need this ball on a string to do it. Now as you're laying on your back, you're looking up. There's 2 parts to this experiment. The first one is quite simple. You just want your friend to swing the tennis ball around above your head in quite a large circle. Put your hands like this though, so you're looking up. You've got that much range of vision. As the tennis ball comes across and around, you will only see it for a tiny section of the entire circle that it's actually travelling. In our case, we're lucky that the sun is much, much, much higher, and we get to see it for at least half the day. But it doesn't mean for us that it's actually there where we see it. It's a tricky one with sun, with light and perspective, and it's too in-depth to go into that particular part of it now. But if you assume some sort of dome bending the light, or simply just atmospheric refraction bending the light in such a way, we get our day and night. As the sun goes far enough away, the light disappears beyond our range of vision, and eventually the twilight fades away because of the amount of atmosphere blocking the light, and it goes dark enough for us to be able to see the stars if it's a starry night. Now the other thing, this is the most important one to try and comprehend, because people then sort of are always asking, what about the seasons? How, is the sun speeding up and slowing down so we get longer days in summer, shorter in winter, and vice versa? We get shorter days here in the southern hemisphere, half the sphere. Dome is the sphere, half the sphere. Anyway, on the southern part of our world we live upon, the outer part outside the equatorial circle, we get longer, hotter summers because the sun is much closer to us. It's still going the exact same size circle. Now if I could show that briefly, there's your North Pole there, there's your equator, there's your Antarctica. So most of the nations are in this northern hemisphere around here, and then we've got a few little jutty out continents out here, so most of the ocean absorbs all the extra heat, but we still get longer, hotter summers. Now what the sun is doing is revolving around us, above us, and appearing to go into a smaller and smaller loop. Up here is June 22, it actually gets bigger down here. This is the flat Earth down below. This is where it gets its lowest at December 22, before it starts to spiral back up again. But it only ever spirals around and around and around the equator. And you're thinking, well, how does it get lower and bigger and higher and more towards the north? Well, it's simple, isn't it? Get your friend to swing the ball around above you, and then as they raise it up higher and higher and higher, still making the exact same size circle above you, because you're looking up at it, as it moves away, the circle shrinks and shrinks, and the sun appears to go towards the center, which is north, which is why when the sun is furthest away from us on June 22nd, which is coming up in just a week, and I will remind all you kind supporters, it's also my birthday. So if you'd like to send me a few bucks so I can go out and buy a beer, awesome. Ancients at Hotmail through PayPal. Free plug for myself. So as the sun goes up higher, it is shining over the northern centre the most, and some of the north will be in perpetual daylight, as it still takes the same size circle around us. As it comes back down, it will appear to take bigger and bigger circles, hence appear to move south, and will also add extra heat through the southern summer all the way down till December 22nd. Now, if you don't believe that heliocentrism is a form of sun worship, think about that. The sun comes down until December 22nd. What do they say according to the scriptures? That the Son of God, which is the Sun, S-U-N, of God, which is what heliocentrism is all about, sun worship, it dies on the cross. Where is the cross? It's in the south, the southern cross. We get to see it here every night. The ancient Egyptians and so on, these people that started this sort of heliocentric cult, some of them may have travelled far enough south to be able to see it, or maybe it's, I don't know, I haven't checked this myself, but maybe the Southern Cross becomes apparent in midwinter for you Northern Hemispherians, if you're close enough to the equator, as I believe Egypt is. They say the Son of God dies on the cross, and after 3 days it rises again. December 22nd is the day it dies, 23rd, 24th, 25th. 3 days after, the Son of God is born again, and to this day we celebrate the birth of the Son of God on the 25th of December. I'm going to take a pause. So the ancient scriptures say, in accordance with the scriptures, after 3 days he rose again, and he will come again to judge the living and the dead and all that. Let's not go into the scriptures. But the Son of God is risen. And of course they're talking about the sun. It gets to the lowest point and then it starts rising again and starting to travel back towards the north, twice passing through the equinox. And as we know from the, I used to love drawing this, that's a terrible example of it, but that's more like it. The sun and a lemma, it crosses twice, here and here. They're the two equinoxes that we have where the days are equal, because the sun hits the midpoint right above the equator. That's represented by that. If you take a picture at 10 o'clock each day with the camera in a fixed position, again proving that we're not on a spinning ball going around it, because the sun comes back to its normal spot. This is the picture of the sun at each one of these spots, if taken on the same day of the month all year round. This is June 22nd, this is December 22nd. This is your equinoxes, the crossover points. And it's perpetual. It is a perpetual motion machine, the sun. It goes up, it goes down, and then it goes up, it goes to the north here. We get these shorter days. We get our winter. It's terrible, it's cold. I don't like it, but when you get out and lay in the sun, and this is my other health tip for you as well. I may as well throw in a health tip since I'm throwing in perspective tips. Health tip is get out in the sun, your entire skin, for half an hour at least per day. It is the best detox. It is the best for your health. You don't burn when you expose your entire skin. Don't just jump right into it in the middle of summer either if you've never done it before. You probably will burn. But ease yourself into it. Get 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes on each side of your skin is plenty. I find in winter I'll try and get a good hour altogether out in the sun, and it is just fantastic for your overall health and vitality. In fact, you get a lot of energy directly into your skin. You don't even need to eat fruit, which is basically plants harnessing sunlight, harnessing shit out of the ground and turning it into fruits, filtering the waters through their wonderful stems and branches and creating beautiful packages of sunlight for you. You can absorb it directly into your skin, your eyes, your hair, if you want. Just letting you know that. The sun is the powerhouse of all life. It is the giver of life. It is the light. There are so many things that say why we worship the sun as God. But here is, I guess I'm done with perspective now. I'm going into more myth instead. Here is why it is Lucifer worship, why Lucifer is the morning star. And because star and sun are often intermixed, we tend to think that stars are suns. And I disagree. I don't think they are. I think they're exactly what we see they are. They are twinkling lights in the sky. They are quite even likely once human souls, since it's said that we're star seeds. I won't go into that. That's up to you to decide. You can look into that yourself. It's not my concrete belief, but it is my personal feelings that the stars are watching over us and they care for us. And they do love us as children. We are star seeds. We're their babies. And they hope that we can go and join them someday in the kingdom of heaven. So, the sun, let me go back again, is not only Lucifer, Horus, the word horizon, it's also Jesus. And this is where most people start to get really far out. Now you're insulting everybody. You're insulting the scientists, the religious. Jesus the man existed, Jesus the Christ existed, but Jesus is not the Son. Okay, that's somehow got twisted. All of history is twisted. All of religion is twisted. Think about it. The Son is surrounded by the 12 houses of the zodiac, the 12 disciples. It's always been that way, and it moves from one to the other throughout the year. And it also represents a whole heap of other things like the age. We're now in the age of Aquarius. We were in the age of Pisces. We go through different ages, another time, another story. The fact is, the sun is always the centre, and whatever is at the centre is the centre of worship. And all of today's heliocentric beliefs still put the sun at the centre, so it is still an ancient form of superstitious sun worship. Now, people have argued this one with me before about Lucifer, the light bringer, and the morning star. They say, oh, it's Venus, so that Venus is Lucifer. And I say, no, Lucifer, the light bearer. And they say, well, yeah, it's like the ring bearer. The ring bearer doesn't wear the ring, so the light bearer doesn't. How does that make sense? The light bearer, the bringer of the light. This is where we got a bit lost in our history. We got tricked by some great deceiver who said that the sun is God, which is the Lucifer rebellion, the downfall of man, because God had decreed long ago that whatsoever mankind holds true in his name on earth, God will hold true in heaven. Now this made God fallible, because God is the light. Lucifer is the light bearer. Now that's the difference. The sun bears the light. It is like a portal, if you will, a transformation of the true light of God from a dimension that would just blow all of physicality away. It is too bright a light. Jesus himself was famous for saying at one time that we can't even look into the midday sun without hurting our eyes. Well, the true light of God is 1,000,000 times brighter than that, which is a pretty big amount of brightness. So the light bearer carries his burden on his shoulders, so to speak, of transforming. He's God's highest angel, transforms the true light of God into this dimension. And even the sun itself is so powerful that it has to keep revolving around us and going away and coming back again. Because if it just stayed there constantly, we would fry. It's all a beautiful, harmonious, delicately balanced, everything placed perfectly by supreme intelligent design. And that is why we should not worship the sun as God, but as the Son of God. And that way, someday, we too may go, once we grow up from, we're now in our Mother Earth, the infinite flat Mother Earth. She's representative of the true God. She gives us everything. She is infinite. She gives us all our food, our shelter, our clothing, our bodies, the air we breathe, the lights in our eyes, the bloods in our veins, everything comes from her, everything goes to her. She is our current true definition of God, the triune God. There's the Father God in heaven, the Mother God on earth. Honour your father and your mother, that you may be true children of God. Excuse me. For then it is said that if you do honour your father and your mother, you obey the natural laws, the things that you know in your gut to be right. Like, of course, thou shalt not kill. That stems from the greatest law, that destroy not that which God has created. All life comes from God. So to kill is to destroy God's creation. So of course that is a deadly, deadly sin. However, there may be exceptions to that rule. For example, if you are saving a life or many lives, there's a crazed attacker, there's a deadly animal attacking. Sometimes it may be necessary to kill, and in that case you have not transgressed the law because you are saving a life. There's nothing wrong with that. But to go out and deliberately kill, to go and destroy the evidence with your digestive system simply because you like it, because it tastes good, that's a sickness, that's an illness. Yeah, we've got to get over that. We don't need to eat flesh to be flesh. Look at the biggest, strongest animals like the elephant, the horse. What do they eat? They just eat grass, sunlight straight from the transformed by a plant. What do we build? We build industrial plants to build things. What do natural plants do? They just harness natural energy and turn it into a valuable food source. You could live off grass just with a few handfuls of grass a day, put it through a juicer if you want, because it's a lot of chewing they have to do otherwise, and drink the juice. That's all the energy requirements you actually need for an entire day. You can juice virtually anything if you really wanted to, but you can get it chiefly from the air. See how long you can go without air. Try and stop breathing for more than a few minutes. You'll soon find yourself struggling. This is the Mother Earth we are breathing in, and yet we are polluting it with filthy, dirty cars pumping shit into our streams, plastic in the oceans. This is insanity. We have to return to a form of sanity, and the only way to do that is through the cannabis hemp plant. It is the only solution. We can build all the plastics we need out of that, and it will break down. It will not sit in our environment forever, poisoning everything forever. No more big oil. Now, people who stand up against big oil, they usually get themselves harmed. They have an accident where they shoot themselves twice in the back. Stuff like that. After they've hung themselves. I hope that doesn't happen to me, but if it does, at least the ideas are out there that we have to do something better for this entire world. She is our mother. If we shit in her, we are shitting on ourselves. We live in this womb. This realm is all we've got. And there's some great forces at work trying to destroy it, simply because they can't have it. The world does not belong to them, it belongs to us, the children of the Mother Earth. Everybody who honours, respects and loves her can live forever if they choose, if they want, if they choose the path of no harm to themselves, to seek a life of more purity, more love, more giving, less taking, more friendship, more harmony, less abuse. If you disagree with anything I've had to say today, fine, disagree. Show me where I'm wrong, and I'll try and correct my errors. That's what we're here for each other for, to lead each other to a better way. And all I'm hoping to do with my teaching the laws of perspective is just to be able to see things how they actually work, so that you can better understand it. Focus on that little point at the bottom here and realize that we are so tiny. We are right down at that height. Ordinarily, anytime we're looking out. If we get up much higher, say up a mountain, you actually start to see a much bigger horizon all around you. You could possibly see for hundreds of miles on a good day. Go up into an aeroplane, as I said before, you're actually looking at about this much from horizon to horizon, which is massive. You're seeing a very large portion of the flat plane you are going over, but you're still not seeing even a fraction of it because it goes out all the way to the edges, and that is a flat plane that keeps going though. But we are so small and tiny, in some way we are insignificant. All we are doing is looking up from this tiny field of view, and as the sun goes by on this big arc or big pyramid shaped path from our perspective, that's how we see it. The horizon blocks it off from view. Another way to notice this one, really simply, is when you're driving in a car. Preferably don't be the driver, be the passenger, so the driver can focus on the road. I do it all the time when I'm driving, but I've got pretty good peripheral vision once I'm knowing what I'm doing on the road. So what you see between trees nearby, mountains, buildings, whatever you've got nearby, and clouds, you can watch. As you travel, you're given the same impression to the clouds as what, say, the sun is doing as it's moving away. They will set behind any nearby object bottom first. That's just the way things disappear in the sky distance when something near and local blocks them. You don't think of your horizon as near and local ordinarily, so that's why you think it's so far away that the sun sets behind it due to curvature. It's not. You've actually got a really limited field of view, and you're just seeing, like, it is really difficult to explain perspective because it is so big, so distant, but your ground horizon rising up to this level, your cutoff point, is very, very close. If you were to rapidly rise up, you would actually get the sun to come back into view quite quickly. It is very simple to do with, say, if you've got a drone. Fly it up at a sunset and the sun will come back up. If you go up high enough, eventually the sun will never set. And that is how high the moon is, that the sun never sets. Hence why we see it all night long on our full moon night. Running out of time here, better make it snappy. So to finish off this video, I will finish off on the moon, my favourite topic. The full moon goes around the earth. The sun goes around the earth. When they're opposite each other like this, that's when we see the full moon. But the moon, to go around us once, takes 50 minutes longer each day. I don't need to make diagrams, but I can't draw anyway. It takes 50 minutes longer than the sun to go around us. So when we see the moon rise full at sunset one day, the very next day the moon will rise a full 50 minutes later. So say it rose at 7 o'clock on the full moon night, the next night it'll rise at about 7:50, 10 to 8. The next night, another 50 minutes later. And every time it rises a bit later, the sun is on a fixed circle, so it is actually slowly catching up to the moon. And as it does, it's shining more and more of its light away from the visible side for us to see it, so we call it a waning moon. We see less and less and less, until eventually the new moon is in line with the sun, sometimes even eclipses it, and we can't see the moon at all. There's about a 3-day period where you can't see any new moon, and then finally after the 2 to 3 days you see a tiny sliver of it and it starts waxing again, because then the sun is getting further away, and then each day it's shining the light on more and more of the visible part until eventually they're opposite each other 2 weeks later and we get another full moon. Moonlight is caused by sunlight, the illumination of it. What the moon is, I cannot fully say at this stage, but I do believe it's an artificial satellite, probably filled with helium, and it has been designed by very clever beings who have interfered with the history of mankind and have us believing all kinds of myths and lies today. Stay cool, and I'll talk to you next time.